Hi there, it's Bill Bishop, and I'm here with Rick Scruggs, Financial Designs Business Advisors. And we're talking about the 12 principles for an abundant future. And the very first principle is take time to think. So, Rick, tell us why it's important to take time to think.
Well, Bill, I was very fortunate to be introduced to Nancy Klein, who was the author of Time to Think back in 2007. And it revolutionized the way we approached working with clients, both individual clients and corporate clients, because we realized that we were probably jumping in too fast about solutions or recommendations and ideas, versus what Time to Think allows us to do is slow everything down, set the space and the venue to allow a client to go into an area that maybe they hadn't thought about. It gives them an opportunity not to get feedback or criticism or input. It's their opportunity, because the idea is there's always two experts in the room, one who's the thinker and one who's the listener. And it's crucial that the thinker be uninterrupted.
I see. So, what I'm gathering from what you're saying is that most business owners don't take much time to think.
Well, I think business owners actually take a lot of time to think. They think probably 24/7, and that's probably the issue. There's no sacred time where there's no interruptions. It's on the go, being reactive. We've all heard about it's crucial to be proactive. That goes back to Stephen Covey. And Time to Think just gives a foundational aspect to slowing things down to improve the quality of your thinking.
Okay, and that relates to your book, What's Wrong with My Thinking, right?
It does.
What is, in this regard, what is wrong with most of our thinking?
It's that it's hurried, it's multitasking, it's not set aside. There's not a specific point to why that Time to Think session is being created. And so it's like working out. If I don't get up at 5:30 2 days a week, I'm not going to show up at the gym on time and get the maximum workout. Well, Time to Think has that same presence or preference, because it's about setting aside the time to show up and give it your all.
Right. So we are doing a lot of thinking, but we're not thinking about the big stuff, right? And what's the danger of that?
Well, it's because it's easy to get crowded out by all the noise. Your phone, emails, interruptions, all that constant chatter that's out there. Time to Think is done in an isolated environment where there's no phones, no interruptions. It's private. And what can happen in a 70-minute session of Time to Think can actually encapsulate weeks and months, if not more time, if neglected.
And I would think that it would help you kind of get pointed in the right direction for your future.
Yeah, it helps an individual discover what self-limiting assumptions they may be thinking or having that are true, possibly true or untrue. Part of our research and experience since 2008, so it's been almost 16 years, is that many of our self-limiting assumptions, as a matter of fact, probably 98% are false.
And what would be a common self-limiting assumption?
Well, that the organization can't grow 10 or 15%, that the customer is not going to engage with our client to let them handle this major expansion, that there are not the talent pool within the organization to take on the complexity of today and tomorrow. It's just self-limiting assumptions that kind of infiltrate our thinking over time, and it's like a virus. It's very slow, and it just kind of oozes on in. and then all of a sudden it wreaks havoc.
Hmm. And how is it connected to having an abundant future?
Well, the key to abundance is you focus on what's the art of the possibility. You kind of take the governor off your mind, and you now have a turbocharger, and you don't put self-limiting assumptions on top. You just let what comes freely, let it surface, express it, capture it, and then you can come back later if you want to do a deeper dive.
I see. So this is really the first stage of your abundance business coaching program, right?
It is, and yet from that point forward, every time we meet, we are going to revisit. It may be a shorter session, but time to think is an integral foundation for the success of all of our clients.
So tell me what happens in a time to think session then.
Well, there is a question that we pose to the client. We kind of give them the backdrop, which is, I'm going to be listening. I'm not going to give them any feedback. I'm not going to give them any coaching. I'm just going to continue with a series of questions designed to go deeper and deeper and deeper. There's a premise that if you're going to bother to have a conversation, you might as well go deep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a confidential question or confidential time. So we emphasize to the client, not only what is this conversation confidential, but as we close the session, there's just a reminder that it's confidential.
Mm-hmm. So this really sounds very useful. But this isn't really how most financial advisors and financial service companies interact with their clients, right? This is kind of unusual and different.
Well, Bill, we're very fortunate. I think a great firm is great because it has great clients. And Financial Designs Business Advisors has been fortunate to have been working with clients as long as 43 years. We've worked with second generation, third generation. We've seen clients go through numerous stages of a business life cycle, from growth to plateauing to resurgence. And so that experience of working with over 70, almost 100 private and family businesses and hundreds of individual clients is giving us a healthy perspective of a better way to get the best outcome for the client.
Yeah. Okay. So you've really learned that a time to think session, and at first, and then an ongoing reviews of that make all the difference. Can you give us an example, perhaps? You don't have to name any names, but just an example of how someone has benefited from taking time to think that you've worked with?
Yeah, so we have a client that's in a part of the market today that's almost recession proof. It's booming because it's in the space of the electrification that's taking place in many parts of the country. And so the idea is to get with the owners and the CFO and ask this question, and they appreciate the fact that we're not out bringing them a solution. We're actually creating an environment for them to think about what matters most, what do they care about, and what do they want to see happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I can tell, based on just a conversation we had as recently as last week, that they contacted us and said, well, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? Well, had we not set that foundation in place, I'm not sure that call would have ever come to us. And unbeknownst to the client, we did have a connection to make for them that may solve an integral issue for their business growth.
Yeah, well, that's really, really good. So obviously you're recommending any business owner take time to think, have a time to think session with you. So how long is a time to think session? Where do you do it? How does it
Well,
get?
Bill, our preference is we've done it at a client office, but we have a separate space from our main office where we can sit down with the client. We ask them to schedule 70 minutes from start to finish. And the idea is to, again, not have a cluttered memo, but we understand life gets in the way. So sometimes those sessions have to be rescheduled because we don't want to shortchange the client.
Mhm.
And then we're actually encouraging them to continue that habit. Back at their business, we've actually done time to think sessions with entire teams.
Yeah.
And we've had feedback where people said, we've been here for 28 years. And this is the first time in 28 years we've all sat in the same room at the same time and actually listened to a fellow teammate express what was on their mind without interruption, without feedback, without criticism. And that has been transformational in how organizations have embraced time to think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that is wonderful, and I'm sure you're encouraging everyone to schedule a time to think session with you.
We welcome that opportunity. They can go to our landing page under Financial Designs Business Advisors and find out more information.
Great. Okay, thanks, Rick. That's very interesting.
Thank you, Bill.